Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Gwen Jacobsen and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable channel 117, Bell Satellite channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at NACTV at wcgwave.ca. Now, this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press is dated Friday, February 18th, 2022. And on the front page, we have a huge picture of the Neepawa Titans head coach and general manager, Ken Pearson, recently coached his 1,000th MJHL regular season game. He hits quite a milestone. This article is by Owen Devereaux. A fair bit has changed in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, or the MJHL, over the years since Ken Pearson's first foray behind a bench as a team's head coach back in 1999. For one, the technology has improved immensely when it comes to going over game film, to the point that film isn't even a part of the process anymore. And of course, the bus trips have gotten a little less bumpy, but not much less bumpy. One thing that hasn't changed, however, has been Pearson's passion for the game, and most importantly, his passion to help his players succeed, both on and off the ice. The current head coach and general manager for the Neepawa Titans recently coached his 1,000th regular season game in the MJHL. He achieved the milestone at home on Saturday, February 12th against the Verdun Oil Capitals, and it has been quite a journey across Manitoba and beyond for Pearson to reach this notable night. Pearson's coaching career began in Neepawa back in 1994 as an assistant coach. The opportunity came about due to former Neepawa Natives head coach and current Brandon Wheat Kings bench boss, Don McGilvery. And it goes on to say, after that initial stint in Neepawa, Ken Pearson started paying his dues all across Western Canada. He served as the Manitoba Scout for the Tri-City Americans of the Western Hockey League in the mid-90s. During that time, Pearson also moved to Winkler to be an assistant with the Flyers. A short tenure with the Prince Albert Raiders was also part of his early resume. It was a return to Winkler, however, that would ultimately lead to Pearson's first glance at the top job behind the bench as he became a head coach in 1999. Pearson told the Banner and Press that one thing that sticks with him from that first game was the case of the nerves he had to fend off those first few minutes. He said, the nervousness maybe of coaching that first game is something I remember. I took over midway through the season in 1999. It's a different feel behind the bench when you shift over to the head coach's position. But after that first few minutes out of the way and that first win, I think things just fell into place. After a few successful years in Winkler, which included a few MJHL finals appearances, Pearson moved on to the Brooks Bandits of the AJHL and the Battleford's North Stars of the SJHL. During those out-of-province stints, Pearson was named a CJHL Coach of the Year finalist in 2003 and 2010, respectively. A shift back to Manitoba would generate some of Pearson's greatest success, including a Turnbull Cup victory as head coach of the Winnipeg South Blues in 2006. He was also the cornerstone of the Winkler Flyers' consistent contention for an MJHL title over the years before returning to Neepawa. Now in his third season as head coach and general manager for Neepawa, Pearson said that hitting the 1,000th game achievement here with his hometown team made it a little more significant. It was something that was in the back of my mind, but then it was brought to my attention that it was over the weekend, which was very exciting. It was probably more exciting that I was able to do it in Neepawa with the organization I started out with as a player. It's a lot of games with a lot of ups and downs and just a lot of fun there in between, said Pearson. Looking back, Pearson said that the changes in the game he has witnessed both on and off the ice over the years have been amazing. The players used to come to training camp to get into shape. Now they train 12 months of the year. All the technology as well, that's now available. The games, you used to have to dub it from VCR to VCR, and now you have HD video available at your fingertips in seconds to your phone or tablet. Being able to adapt to the new age has been at times a bit challenging, but at the same time it's made me a better coach, Pearson noted. Pearson concluded by acknowledging that he didn't reach this moment alone, as many assistant coaches, support staff, and others were paramount to his journey to 1,000. He said the true highlight for him has been and continues to be watching the young men he has coached over the years move on in life and find new successes even beyond the game. You see them going on to be doctors, lawyers, things like that. Those are also what I like to consider accomplishments as a coach and as a manager. Seeing them find success in that section of life. There is always the hockey portion of it. The guys are hoping to move on to the next level, but watching them become husbands and fathers and taking their kids to hockey, that's a big thing too. And while we're on this page, during that milestone game, High Life were the sponsors for the Titans game, and there's a picture of the High Life mascot named Heidi and some local staff that had some barbecue prizes up for grabs. That was against the Verdant Oil Capitals. All right, let's move on. Provincial and federal governments begin easing restrictions by the Neepawa banner and press staff. Here we have a picture of our Premier, Heather Stephenson, during the press conference on February 11th. Manitoba has announced a major shift in its public health orders effective Tuesday, February 15th. Premier Heather Stephenson announced this on Friday, February 11th. Several major changes to the requirements, which include the following. New public health orders coming into effect at 12:01 a.m. on Tuesday, February 15th. That will move all of Manitoba to the yellow or caution level under the pandemic response system. Capacity limits will be eliminated in venues such as restaurants, licensed premises, entertainment venues, indoor and outdoor sporting events and casinos, as well as gatherings at private residences. Capacity limits will be removed for outdoor public gatherings, but will be limited to 50 people indoors unless proof of vaccination is required. Young people ages 12 to 17 participating in indoor sports and recreation will no longer be required to provide proof of vaccination or recent testing. There are no changes to retail and personal service. The removal of proof of vaccination requirements will be effective March the 1st. Mask requirements and other restrictions will be lifted effective March 15th. Stephenson said, "I want to thank Manitobans who have made personal, professional, and financial sacrifices over the past 2 years and have done their part by getting vaccinated and following the fundamentals. It is because of Manitobans' collective efforts and dedication, compassion, and willingness to protect one another that we are able to move forward once again to lift restrictions and allow Manitobans to get their lives back." On Tuesday, February the 5th, the Government of Canada announced that it would be easing some of the border measures when entering the country. These new regulations will come into effect as of February 28th. All fully vaccinated travelers will no longer be required to test on arrival to Canada. Travelers may be randomly selected to complete arrival testing. However, they are not required quarantine while awaiting their test results. Children under 12 years old traveling with fully vaccinated adults will be exempt from quarantine requirements to which they were previously subject, including the need to wait 14 days before attending school. Canadian travelers who are unvaccinated will still be required to quarantine for 14 days upon arrival, with testing on arrival and 8 days after entering the country. Unvaccinated travelers who are not residents of Canada will still not be allowed to enter Canada unless they meet specific exemption requirements. Formerly, Canada did not accept rapid antigen tests as a valid testing method when entering the country. As of February 28th, these rapid tests will be accepted with certain stipulations on where and when the test is administered. In addition, international flights that were previously only permitted to arrive at certain airports will be allowed to arrive at any international airports. Travelers will still be required to use the ArriveCan app or website to submit their mandatory information, including vaccination status when entering Canada. Today's announcements are a reflection of the progress we have made against this current Omicron variant. The return to mandatory random testing of all vaccinated travelers will facilitate travel for Canadians, all while helping our public health authorities to detect future changes in COVID-19 importation rates and variants of concern, stated Jean-Yves Duclos, Canada's Minister of Health. He said, "We will continue to evaluate our measures and will not hesitate to make necessary adjustments to keep Canadians and our transportation system safe." Now, it says that there was a truck fire near Carberry. There is a picture of it right here by Ken Waddell. A truck fire near Carberry on Tuesday, February 15th, fortunately resulted in no injuries. The truck, a Manitoba Highway snowplow, didn't fare so well as it was pretty much destroyed. Town of Carberry CAO and Deputy Fire Chief Grady Stevenson said the truck was fully engulfed when we arrived. We were able to put the fire out in about 10 minutes. The vehicle was over on the median shoulder. We were able to get the highway opened quickly. Stevenson cautioned that the fire department's experience that day with vehicles going by the fire scene was not uncommon. Please tell people passing by fire or accident scenes they should stay off their cell phones. Apparently, onlookers can't resist being on their phones when passing through a fire or accident scene. We all want to get home alive, said Stevenson. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. And the next article is entitled, "Don't Worry, We'll Know Soon Enough," by Owen Devereaux. It's a question everyone has been asking since it was revealed that Neepawa would be getting a new hospital. Just where is the building actually going to go? Now, just over 2 months after that historic announcement, we're still waiting. But don't worry, an answer to that question may be coming very soon. On December 10th, Manitoba Premier Heather Stefanson and Health and Seniors Care Minister Audrey Gordon announced that the province will spend at least $127 million on construction of a new hospital in Neepawa. The facility will include around 60 acute care inpatient beds, up from 35 at the current site. It will also be double the size of the current hospital. At the press conference, no specific date for when the location of the facility would be announced was given, though construction is confirmed to begin before the end of 2022. The Banner and Press reached out to Prairie Mountain Health to see if there was new information on how the process was moving forward. CEO Brian Schoonberg replied and stated that unfortunately the proposed locations are still being held in confidence as we are in the process of doing our due process on the properties to determine their suitability for our needs, and I hope we can share something soon. Meanwhile, Neepawa Mayor Blake McCutcheon said the latest update given to the town officials from the province and Prairie Mountain Health was back in early February. We were very excited about the announcement on December the 10th, and they said at the time, in an appropriate timeline, they'd tell us where it was going to be built. Unfortunately, we have no control over that, the 40 acres that they are looking for. We've been told that there are no concerns and that they are doing their due diligence. In the meantime, the hospital location topic remains on everyone's mind as we await the big news. Travel and entertainment section. The Neepawa Tigers should be considered for Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame by Rick Sparling. Back on July 13th, 2016, I submitted an article about the Neepawa Tigers, and according to the Winnipeg News sports reporter Vince Lee, this team from Neepawa was the first Little League team to play in Canada. Winnipeg had a league, but the 1950 flood delayed their season. 200 kids tried out for the 4-team league in Winnipeg, with 15 players making each team. Out of those 60 players, 15 were selected Winnipeg All-Stars and came out to Neepawa to play the best-of-5 series for what was referred to as the Little League World Series. Neepawa had 17 boys, all from Neepawa. The series would be played Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, double headers on Friday and Saturday, and the 5th game, if necessary, would be on Sunday. Neepawa won the first game 8-6. Winnipeg won the second game 13-8 to make it a game each. On Saturday, Winnipeg took the first game 9-4, but in the evening game, Neepawa won it in an extra inning 7-6. There were 1,500 spectators out for that evening game. It was all tied up, 2 games each, with the deciding game to be played on Sunday. Neepawa made a great effort, but fell short, losing the series with a final game of 11-7. Not too bad when you consider their competition was considered Winnipeg's dream team. There were over 4,000 people attending the series. I felt that the Tigers should be considered a spot in the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame, and I sent the article from July 13th, 2016 into the Hall's board along with the team photo, and it was denied. One fellow who was influential in Manitoba baseball circles advised me that it wouldn't have much of a chance because they never won any championship. I didn't think winning championships was the key to entering a Hall of Fame in any sport. There are many Hall of Fame hockey players who never won a Stanley Cup, and many baseball players who have never won the World Series and yet are in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to resubmit the application for their consideration once again. The 1950 Neepawa Tigers, first Little League team to play in Canada. I think that in itself qualifies the team. Many of these boys went on and played for the Neepawa Pirates, 13 to 15-year-olds, and graduated to the Neepawa Cubs senior team. Here is Vince Lee's column. There are 300,000 kids playing baseball in Canada and the United States, but we are still weary of reading the game was first played in Montreal. Rubbish. Little League Baseball, with Carl Stotz's blessing, was started in Winnipeg in 1950. Flood interfered and we didn't get started until June, and Neepawa under Jim Bullock beat us to the gun. The first playoff in Manitoba was held in Neepawa and had Stotz's sanction. Stotz was the founder of Little League Baseball USA. How interesting. I'll come back to that page. Helen Drysdale, out of Helen's Kitchen. This week, it's entitled Oven Baked Meal. A warm, cozy dinner is just an oven away. Oven-baked meals do double duty, warming up your house and cooking your dinner. I cook my whole meal in the oven at once. Keep in mind the heat rises up. Therefore, if you want to cook something more slowly, put it on the bottom rack. If you're looking for a crispy exterior, then place your dish on the top rack. The middle of the oven has the most consistent heat. When doing these 3 recipes that I've put together, the pudding is on the bottom rack, the veggies on the top rack, and the chicken on the middle rack. If you only have 2 racks, put the chicken and the pudding on the same rack closer to the middle of the oven. If possible, avoid using dark-colored metal bakeware as it absorbs more heat and often will burn your food on the bottom. Light-colored metal, such as aluminum, glass, or silicone, works well as they transmit the heat more equally. Hopefully, the following oven recipes will help keep you warm and well fed during these cold winter months. So the first one is an orange rosemary baked chicken, the second oven roasted veggies, and the third pumpkin custard pudding. So you'll have to go online to read those. Next is the Spruce Plains RCMP report by Corporal Jacob Stanton. During the week of February 7th to 13th, Spruce Plains RCMP dealt with 51 police activities. On February 7th, RCMP conducted a traffic stop in the RM of Minto O'Donnell and discovered the driver had an active warrant for arrest. The driver was arrested and released on a future court date. Police received a complaint about dogs who were threatening neighboring animals in the RM of Minto O'Donnell. The caller was looking for advice and did not want further police action. On February 8th, RCMP responded to a report of theft of mail in Eden. It was reported that someone signed an individual's package who was not authorized to. The package reappeared a short time later and no police involvement was required. Police were dispatched to a commercial alarm in Minnedosa, which was cancelled shortly after by the alarm company. February 9th, RCMP conducted a proactive traffic stop in Gladstone and discovered the vehicle was unregistered and the driver was not wearing a seatbelt. Further investigation revealed the driver was over the legal limit of cannabis after an approved drug screening test was conducted. The driver was issued tickets for the original infractions and was suspended from driving for 72 hours. February 10th, RCMP responded to a truck theft in Minnedosa. The matter is still under investigation. Police received a report of theft from a business in Neepawa. This matter is also under investigation. Police were dispatched to a commercial alarm in Gladstone, which was cancelled shortly after. February 11th, RCMP received a report of a disturbance at a residence in the RM of Minto O'Donnell. Patrols made for the subject of complaint were unsuccessful. Police attended a commercial alarm in Neepawa and found the building cleaner had set off the alarm accidentally. There was no further cause for concern. On February 12th, RCMP returned to the residence of the RM of Minto O'Donnell as it was reported that the individual who had caused the disturbance had returned. The individual was gone on arrival but was located shortly after, driving impaired. A driving suspension was issued and the vehicle was towed. Police responded to a theft of gas report in Rapid City. After investigation, it was determined the matter was unfounded. On February 13th, RCMP responded to a motor vehicle collision involving 2 vehicles in the RM of North Cypress Langford. Vehicle 1 slowed down to turn. Vehicle 2 attempted to brake, but icy road conditions caused the vehicle to slide into the back of the turning vehicle. There was damage to both vehicles, but no injuries to any of the occupants. RCMP conducted 28 traffic enforcement actions during this reporting period. Now on the Rural Outlook page, it's entitled An Opportunity to Lead by Casper Werhan. The Manitoba Beef Producers' 43rd Annual General Meeting kicked off bright and early on February 10th Ahead of tackling the business portion, the Manitoba Beef Producers, or MBP, invited Jared Monroe, President and CEO of the Manitoba Agricultural Services Corporation, MASC, Steve Funk, Director of Ag Risk Management Resources for MNP, and Brian Perlat of Canfax Marketing to conduct a series of knowledge sessions and provide a market update. These sessions included items such as a new polycrop establishment insurance, which provides financial assistance if an eligible polycrop fails to establish, and a new green feed definition, which allows for up to 20% of the seed blend to be made up of non-traditional species. The segments also made note of the following. The hay disaster benefit paid out $8.4 million in 2021 compared to $5.2 million when it last triggered in 2019. In 2021, 59% of producers harvested less than 50% of what they would normally harvest. Global beef consumption has remained fairly steady from 2020 to 2021, remaining just over 50 million tons. And an extremely high demand is being observed based on U.S. weekly choice cutout values and U.S. choice beef to hog cutout ratios in 2021 and more. Following a brief break and greetings from Marie-Claude Bibeau, Agriculture and Agri-Food Minister, and Derek Johnson, Manitoba Agriculture Minister, the MBP got right down to business. MBP President Tyler Fulton noted that 2021 will be remembered as a year of hardship for Manitoba's beef producers. It also revealed the toughness and grit of our farmers and ranchers, Fulton expressed. The drought overtook all other issues as it became a crisis that needed direct action to mitigate and manage the effects. To assist with challenges presented by the drought conditions, the Ag Action BMP 503 program had been opened to address water shortages for livestock. An agri-recovery program was designed to support producers struggling with maintaining their breeding herd, putting out messages to raise awareness of the issue in the urban public and among policy makers and more. While under the stress of managing through this situation, General Manager Carson Callum provided steady leadership to the whole team, putting in the extra time and effort required, said Fulton. I feel very proud of the whole team's effort and want to thank all the staff for their hard work. Looking into 2022, Fulton noted that the MBP will have a full agenda. The efforts of the MBP will be focused toward advocating for improved policy regarding agricultural crown lands, providing feedback into development of a new agricultural policy framework to further improve business risk management programs, continuing the pilot livestock predation prevention project, and special focus on issues of climate change and conservation. It is clear to me that we have an opportunity to lead on environment-related matters, Fulton stressed. We can do this by providing credible means to sequester more carbon and provide high-quality wildlife habitat, while also helping farmers and ranchers benefit from their long-standing sustainable practices. Callum added in his report, climate change is a common policy theme in many government departments, and there will be a big focus going forward to reduce its impact in the agriculture sector. Tackling climate change challenges is also important to the beef industry, such as threats caused by severe droughts and floods. Callum also noted that he believes the environmental benefits beef production provides are key to leveling the playing field between beef and other commodities. Providing an example, Callum said that if producers are able to see a financial return for maintaining grassland habitats, a slowdown in conversion of native grasslands to commodity grain producing land may be seen by the industry. MBP Finance Chair Mark Good presented the financial statements collated by NP for the 2021-22 fiscal year. The statements noted the MBP's total revenue was $1,870,882. That number is up from last year by $43,419. Expenses for the year saw a decrease, measuring in at $1,479,754. This is a difference of $99,734 from 2020. When these expenses and other items are considered, this leaves the MBP with an excess revenue over expenses of $296,128. This is up from last year's total of $177,975. Bylaws were then presented for amendment with the assistance of Vera Chernecki. These amendments are as follows: to add an additional extension of term for district directors, the addition of an external appointment provisional, and to realign certain districts to match current day layout due to amalgamations of municipalities over the years. A vote was cast with 82% in favor of all changes, and the amendments were adopted. Now, we have a picture here of 3 lynx taking an afternoon stroll. These lynx were seen by Jennifer Kostenchuk just south of Polonia on Tuesday, February 15th. It was approximately 1:30 p.m. when the photo was taken, capturing the trio in the midst of their stroll through the fresh, powdery snow. A big one and 2 littler ones. And the Freedom Convoy passed through Neepawa on Saturday, February 12th. The group's journey began in Brandon. This is a picture of it. Now, the next article is, it says, non-seatbelt use higher in rural Manitoba, electronic communication device use higher in Winnipeg. Submitted by Manitoba Public Insurance. A road safety observation study commissioned last fall by Manitoba Public Insurance, or MPI, reports that non-seatbelt use is higher in rural Manitoba, with 10% of all drivers observed not wearing their seatbelt, compared to 3% in the Winnipeg Capital Region. The 2 worst regions for non-seatbelt use were the Interlake and Parkland, at 16% and 14% respectively. Meanwhile, the study also reported use of an electronic communication device, or ECD, was higher in Winnipeg, 10%, compared to 3% in the rural areas. The purpose of this study was to obtain current rates of risky driving behavior across Manitoba, with a focus on use of hand-operated electronic devices and seatbelt use, said Satver Jitana, MPI's Chief Customer Officer. The findings of this study will be used as a benchmark to monitor behavior change over time and shared with the Manitoba Association of Chiefs of Police for the purpose of planning future enforcement and awareness campaigns. The Insurance Brokers Association of Manitoba, or IBAM, is also an advocate for safe driving and warns that distracted driving can have both financial and human costs. Driving without a seatbelt is another example of dangerous driving that can ultimately lead to preventable accidents among our clients, said Grant Winikia, IBAM's Chief Executive Officer. Both non-seat usage and distracted driving due to cell phones can lead to more severe accidents and, in the long term, higher premiums for Manitoba drivers. Safety needs to be the driver's #1 priority when behind the wheel. The road safety study was conducted in September morning and afternoon hours, with an overall error rate of plus or minus 0.5%. A total of nearly 29,000 vehicles were observed in 46 towns and cities with a population of at least 1,000 people. In total, 8 economic regions were selected: Winnipeg Capital Region, Central Plains, Eastman, Interlake, Northern, Parkland, Pembina Valley, and Westman. Overall, 7% of all drivers observed were using an ECD in some capacity. ECD use appeared to be higher in areas with traffic lights. ECD use is highest among younger drivers. Overall, 7% of all drivers observed were not wearing their seat belts. Those driving trucks had slightly higher rates of not wearing a seat belt compared to passenger cars or vans or SUVs. Drivers in rural areas wore their seat belt less often across all age groups. In cases where the driver was not wearing their seat belt, 54% of passengers were also not wearing their seat belt. Overall, driver distraction is a leading contributor to fatal crashes in Manitoba, linked to nearly 50% of all fatalities and 37% of all serious injuries in 2020, according to MPI data. Using a handheld electronic device while driving is illegal in Manitoba, with the offender receiving a $672 fine, 3-day driving suspension for first offenders, and moving down 5 levels on the driver safety rating scale. A subsequent conviction will result in a 7-day driving suspension and moving down the DSR scale 5 levels. A person is more than 50 times more likely to be killed and almost 4 times more likely to be seriously injured when not wearing a seatbelt. Failure to wear a seatbelt will result in a fine of $200 and move down 2 levels on the driver safety rating scale. High-risk driving behaviors place all motorists at risk on our public roadways, said Jatana. This study confirmed too many drivers continued to exhibit high-risk behaviors, which can easily be changed. Okay, and increases to lending limits will help Manitoba farmers, by Sean Kabak from Manitoba Agriculture. The Manitoba Agricultural Services Corporation, or MASC, has increased lending limits to provide farmers with financial options that give them greater flexibility in managing, establishing, or expanding their operations. MASC's lending programs provide Manitoba's agricultural producers access to credit with reasonable interest rates and flexible repayment terms. The corporation provides direct loans and stalker loans and guarantees loans made by private sector financial institutions to help create and expand farming operations in rural Manitoba, thereby supporting the transition to the next generation of farmers. Effective April 1st, 2022, the direct loan limit will increase to $4.25 million from $3.5 million, reflecting increased land values and operating costs. Loans may be used to purchase agricultural land and buildings, agricultural equipment, breeding, livestock, and quota for supply managed commodities. They may also be used for construction or renovation of farm buildings, greenhouses, and nurseries, consolidation and refinancing of debt, and financing operating expenses. Limits on stalker loans, which provide producers with short-term financing for the purpose of purchasing feeder cattle and lambs, or as a cash advance on their retained feeder animals, are also being increased. Effective April 1st, stalker loan limits will increase to $750,000 from $500,000. With Manitoba's beef herd reduced because of recent drought years, increasing the lending limit to $750,000 from $500,000, provides an excellent tool to help producers rebuild their herds. Limits on the Manitoba Livestock Association's Loan Guarantee Program, which encourages feeding cattle in the province, will increase to $750,000 from $500,000, and association limits will increase to $12 million from $8 million. For more information, contact an Ag MASC Service Center or go to www.masc.mb.ca. February 22nd, 2022 is Canada's Agriculture Day. Celebrate Canadian agriculture by thanking the wonderful producers and growers in agriculture and agri-food that will provide us with high-quality food. Share your love for agriculture with the photo that includes the hashtag Canadian Ag Day on Twitter. About 1/3 of all food goes to waste each year. Reducing food waste benefits the environment by producing methane and greenhouse gas emission and saving energy and non-renewable resources. Reducing food waste also helps consumers save about $1,100 per year. All living plants and animals naturally produce hormones, and sometimes farmers give animals additional hormones. Some animals are given hormones to produce food more efficiently, using less land, feed, and water. The use of added hormones is carefully regulated by government agencies, and the food supply is monitored to ensure compliance with these regulations. The amount of hormones used and the approval and monitoring process ensure that all animal products are safe for children and adults to read. A new discovery is creating a lot of interest in gene editing. CRISPR, C-R-I-S-P-R, is a technology that allows scientists to make precise changes in genetic code. CRISPR is an acronym which stands for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats. It refers to a specific type of gene editing that can precisely edit or change the genetic code, or DNA, within a specific living animal or plant. CRISPR is like a molecular scalpel that enables scientists to cut DNA very precisely and very efficiently. All domesticated plant and animal breeding programs could benefit from breeding methods that enable breeders to more precisely improve key traits like disease resistance, drought resistance, improved yields, and more. Food Freedom Day is the day that a Canadian household of average income will have earned enough to pay for their entire year's grocery bill. Canadians spend 10.7% of their disposable income on food in 2021, which is slightly lower than the 11% of disposable income spent on food in 2020. Due to this, Food Freedom Day is now one day earlier, landing on February 8th, 2022. While Canada's food system continues to provide access to affordable food by global standards, the pandemic has affected Canadian households in drastically different ways, depending on their vocation, location, and a wide variety of other factors, including supply chain disruptions. Even though inflation is high and food prices are rising, we can be thankful that only a small proportion of our income is needed to put food on our tables. For more information, contact the Manitoba Agriculture Office in Portage at 204-239-3353 or Sean Cabak, shawn.cabak at gov.mb.ca. And Neepawa will be hosting an Ag Expo televised live auction from 7 to 9 p.m. on April the 7th, 2022. Get your 2022 products promoted live on TV. The proceeds from this auction will go towards the Neepawa Titans Junior A Hockey Club, and 10% of auction proceeds will go towards Neepawa Golf and Country Club to help with clubhouse deck upgrade and wheelchair accessibility. And here we have a picture down in the bottom. It's beautiful. It's a closer look at a snowflake. This snowflake came down during the snowfall in Neepawa on Tuesday, February 15th. It was captured after it landed on a photographer's mitten. Beautiful. All right, next we have Margaret Lawrence Home Planning for 2022 Events by Kira Patterson. This is a picture of the former home of Margaret Lawrence, so we call it the Margaret Lawrence Home. They are planning events to bring the historic site back to life. The Margaret Lawrence Home, or MLH, is preparing to get back into the swing of things. The organization that promotes literature and helps preserve the Neepawa-born author's former home has been limited in what events they could be doing over the past 2 years. Now that some public health restrictions are starting to be eased, the MLH board is getting ready to bring more literary events back to the community. We're really excited to have these events going on again. It feels like it's been a really long time, expressed Rain Pryor, MLH board member. We've got our whole slate of events. We used to do a bunch of events a year, and the last 2 years we've basically done nothing. Even the one we tried to plan last summer had to get canceled, she explained. So we're kicking off with a bunch of stuff this year. The first thing on the agenda this year is the annual general meeting, AGM, scheduled for March the 8th. That will be taking place in the back room of the Neepawa Public Library at 7 p.m. Pryor noted that they are always looking forward for more people to get involved with MLH, whether it's as a board member or just as a volunteer while the home is open or at events. But attending the AGM does not mean you're volunteering for anything. You can just attend and listen. It's fine, she stressed. She added that anyone wanting to attend the AGM is asked to contact the MLH board ahead of time in case plans around the meeting change and attendees need to be notified. The next item in the calendar will be their first literary event of the year. MLH's Canada Reads Evening is an annual event, excluding the past 2 years, that they host to coincide with CBC's televised Canada Reads event. During CBC Canada Reads, panelists choose 5 books written by Canadian authors, and they hold debates to see which book is the winner that year based on the theme chosen. This year's theme is One Book to Connect Us. At the MLH version of the event, they use the books chosen on CBC and host an evening of reading, discussion and debate about the books. What we traditionally do is have local readers read from the nominated books and have discussion about them, Pryor stated. She noted that they try to schedule the event for the week before CBC's debates before any of the books are eliminated from the national competition. This year, MLH is holding Canada Reads on March 23rd at Arts Forward. There's a bit more space. They already have a liquor license, so we're partnering with them on this event for this year, Pryor explained of the venue choice. She noted that they're especially excited for this event because it had been the very first of their annual events to be canceled in 2020 due to the pandemic. It was one of the first things. We were already ready to go, and it just kind of got shut down. Further down the line are a couple more events MLH is excited to bring to the community. The first will be their used book sale, set for May 28th, to coincide with Neepawa's town-wide yard sale. They accept donations of gently used books for the annual sale, which is a major fundraiser for the home, to help with the cost of keeping the place running and maintained. Coming up on July 16th, the plan is to hold an inaugural event that was supposed to take place last summer, but was kiboshed due to the pandemic restrictions. The garden party will feature area artists' work on display in some beautiful local gardens. This is the event we had to cancel last summer when restrictions were such that we couldn't have many people on private properties, because this is an event that takes place in gardens around town, explained Pryor. We're basically reaching out and partnering with various artists who are setting up outdoor art displays in gardens, and then people will give them a map and they'll tour around these various gardens. Along with the full slate of activities this year, MLH is planning to have the house open for visitors and tours throughout the summer, starting May long weekend. The MLH board is also planning a new idea for their fundraising endeavors. We're looking at putting out a 2023 calendar, stated Pryor. She said that the calendar would feature pictures of Margaret Lawrence-related locations in Neepawa, as well as historic photos of the community. We're asking if people would be interested. If they want to email, it's sort of an unofficial pre-order, just so we get an idea of how much interest there is, just so we know how many to order. Pryor added that people can also reach out to them with photo suggestions for the calendar if they have ideas of what should be featured. Anyone interested in the calendars, volunteering, donating books, attending the AGM, or looking for more information about upcoming events can contact MLH via email at mlawrence, which is MLAURENCEHOME @gmail.com, or leave a message on their phone at 204-476-3612. Alternatively, board members Rain Pryor, Blair Chapman, or Brenda Ferguson can be contacted. Now, for more sports, NACI Tigers fall into a mini slump. By Owen Devereaux. After putting together a 7-game winning streak, the NACI Tigers have cooled off as of late with a pair of recent losses. First, on Wednesday, February 9th, the Tigers were bested by the Vincent Massey Vikings 3-2 in overtime. Brody Pollock and Ward Brister scored for Neepawa in the defeat. NACI's next game was a 5-2 loss to Swan Valley on Friday, February 11th. Brister scored his 11th goal of the year for Neepawa late in the first period to give the Tigers the early advantage. Swan Valley stormed back in the second, however, with 3 straight goals. Fortunately, the Tigers were able to bounce back on Monday, February 14th with a 5-3 win over the MS Mountaineers. Jory Kulbaki and Tarek Lapointe both scored a pair of goals for NACI, while Lance Murray contributed the other to secure the win. With this victory, the NACI Tigers improved their record to 18-9-0 on the season to remain in third place in the WHSHL standings. Neepawa's next 4 games will all be on the road. Their next home game will be on February 27th against the REMP Renegades. Start time will be at 6:30 p.m. And next, with the Neepawa Farmers, they win the Tiger Hills Hockey League regular season finale in Cartwright by Owen Devereaux. The Neepawa Farmers closed out the regular season of the Tiger Hills Hockey League, or THHL, with a confidence-building win over the Cartwright Clippers. Garrett Rempel scored the game winner just 23 seconds into overtime to secure a 4-3 Farmers victory. Rempel also scored during regulation, while Corbin Mariash and Ward Susky added the others on the night for Neepawa. This win was Neepawa's 11th of the regular season, so they are 11-4-2 with 24 points, and ensured them a third-place finish in the THHL's Eastern Division, 2 points better than the Minnedosa Bombers, who are 10, 5, and 2 with 22 points. The Bombers' last game before the playoffs began was a 9-6 loss to the McGregor Wild. Clay Bergeson had a hat trick for Minnedosa, while Brad Lewis, Tyler Jury, and Logan Robinson had the others for the Bombers. As for the Cartwright Clippers, that loss in overtime ended up costing them top spot in the East Division as they lost out in the tiebreaker against the Gladstone Lakers, who are 13-3-1 with 27 points. Both teams had identical record and split their heads-up games against one another. The tiebreaker was decided on goals for and against. Gladstone had 110 goals for, 67 against, while Cartwright had 86 goals for and 59 goals against. Both teams have earned, however, first-round byes in the playoffs. The Eastern Division quarterfinals will see the Neepawa Farmers, 3rd seed, play the Wawanesa Jets, 6th seed. The playoffs began for Neepawa on Wednesday, February 16th, after the Banner and Press publication deadline. Game 2 in Wawanesa will be Saturday, February 19th, while the third game of the best of 3 series, if required, will be Sunday, February 20th at 4:30 p.m. at the Yellowhead Center in Neepawa. The other East Division quarterfinal will have the Minnedosa Bombers, who are 4th, versus the McGregor Wild, who are 5th. As for what's going on in the Western Division, the Boys of Ain, Border Kings, and Killarney Shamrocks received the first round byes. The Verdon Oil Kings will face the Melita Bison, while the Hartney Blues take on the Deloraine Royals. And there was a correction from last week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press. The Tiger Hills Hockey League West Division standings had the Melita Bisons listed twice. The correct standings should have listed Melita in 6th place and the Souris Elks in 7th position. All right, next we have the Carberry North Cypress Langford page by Gladwin Scott. This week's community profile is on Johnny Myers. Johnny is age 17 and a member of the Carberry Collegiate 2022 graduating class and is an assistant captain with the GCB Wildcats hockey team. This is his 3rd season with them, and he plays center for Jaron Waldner and Trey Dixon. He works for Myers Meats, and his parents, Dave and Derry, have had a positive influence on his development. Chemistry, biology, and English are his favorite subjects, and he plans to graduate with 33 credits. Badminton and track and field are also other activities he enjoys. Johnny plans to continue his education at a university, possibly Brandon University. And for the curling corner, Kelly Marnock's rink lost 2 straight games and were eliminated at the 28 rink Viterra Men's Provincial Curling Championship in Selkirk, February 9th to 13th. William Lyburn edged them 6-5 in their opener, and Thompson of Morden handily won their second 9-2. Grant Schufelt's Balder rink scored 3 in the 10th to defeat Randy Neufeld from LaSalle 10-7 in their opener. They then lost to Jason Gunlison 9-1 and Jack Hikaway 7-4 to exit the Viterra. Mike McEwen's rink had to compete without lead Colin Hodson for a couple of games due to a nagging leg injury. McEwen went on to meet Colton Lott in the final and was victorious 8-3. So Mike McEwen, along with 3rd Reed Carruthers, 2nd Derek Semilgalski of Carberry, and lead Colin Hodson, will represent Manitoba in the Brier in Lethbridge, March 4th to the 13th. The high school zone curling championships were held in Rivers, February 11th and 12th. The Gladstone girls won the zone final over Carberry. The provincials are slated for Hamiota, March the 4th and 5th. Carberry's Taylor Holland curled lead for Brandon University's team at the Western Canadian University Championships in Regina at the Caledonia Club, February 3rd to 5th. And the Wildcats have a busy schedule. In the last month of Westman High School Hockey League schedule, the Wildcats will play 12 games. Captain Deegan Campbell fired a hat trick and added an assist for the GCB Wildcats in a 7-2 decision over the host Deloraine Hartney Colts, Sunday, February 6th. Jaron Waldner scored his 19th and 20th goals, while Kylan Aitken dented the twine twice and recorded a pair of helpers. Dylan Hood collected a goal and an assist for the Wildcats, who held period leads of 1-0 and 4-1. Carson Nakanekne added an assist. Zach Baker was the winning goaltender, and the visitors outshot the Colts 59-18. Jordan McGregor netted both goals for Deloraine Hartney. One of the Wildcats grinders, Talon Graham, had the misfortune to fracture his right tibia in practice. After the cast is removed in a month, Talon hopes to return for the playoffs. He had driven himself home from Glenborough, but had it x-rayed the next day. In McCreary, Wednesday, February 9th, the Mountaineers scored 3 times in the final 5 minutes to record a 4-1 win over the Wildcats. Shane Fraze tallied the host's only goal in the opening period, and Jaron Waldner, assisted by Trey Dixon, tied the game early in the third period. Chris Zuzik, Drake Paul, and Danon Delorier sank the winning markers for McCreary, who were outshot 45-20. The Wildcats used 2 third-period goals to power them to 4-2 victory over the visiting Minnedosa Erickson Chancellors. Friday, February 11th. After a scoreless first frame, Johnny Myers opened the scoring with help from the Elliott brothers, Carter and Peyton. Rookie Griffin Anderson tied the score 2-2, with Jackson Mueller and Deegan Campbell drawing assists. In the third period, Dylan Hood fired the winner, with Johnny Myers and Trey Dixon assisting on the play. With 1 minute and 12 seconds left in the game, Trey Dixon scored his 33rd league marker with help from Campbell. The GCB squad outshot the Chancellors 42-22. Victor Lamb and Austin Taylor scored for the Chancellors. Mark Shearer won the 50-50 and $145, while Scoro winners were Donna Mesta, Adele Brock, and Valerie Taft. Carson Nakanekne was the winner of the Edmonton Oilers autographed jersey donated by Devin Waldner of Century 21. Sienna Gunnison won the sports basket donated by Myers Meats. Paced by 2 goals from Jaron Waldner, head coach Corey Forbes' guys edged the Vincent Massey Vikings 5-4 at the Sportsplex Saturday, February 12th. Peyton Elliott sniped a pair and added an assist. Kylan Aitken scored 1 and had a couple of assists. Carter Elliott recorded 2 helpers. The Wildcats trailed Massey 3-2 after 2 periods, but scored twice in the first 90 seconds of the third. Line mates Trey Dixon and Johnny Myers drew assists on Jaron Waldner's 21st and 22nd goals, including the winner with 9 minutes and 8 seconds left in the game. Evan White got 2 goals. Will Fawcett and Porter Ewert replied for Massey, who were outshot 43-32. Westman Access TV televised the exciting game. The next home games are against Vincent Massey Vikings in Carberry, Saturday, February 19th at 7 p.m., and Major Pratt Trojans in Glenborough, Sunday, February 20th at 3 p.m. Go Wildcats, go. Carberry Collegiate Cougars junior varsity boys basketball team has won 2 games recently after several cancellations due to COVID-19. Nate Robson hooped 20 in a 61-31 win at the Cougar Dome Saturday, February 5th. Other leading scorers were Peter Hillman with 14 points, Dylan Hood with 10. At McGregor, Monday, February 7th, Dylan Hood fired 15 points in a 49-28 victory over the Mustangs. Nathan Dick has 14 for the Cougars. The junior varsity boys tournament slated for February 4th and 5th has been rescheduled for February 25th and 26th. The Carberry under-13 team has qualified for the provincials in Killarney, March 10th to 12th. The fastest growing Manitoba communities include Niverville, West St. Paul, and Neepawa. The criteria for growth includes space, greenery, and a reasonable real estate market. High Life has proposed a hog barn expansion in the Deloraine-Winchester area. It will be a multiplier site with 3,800 nursery hogs and 3 finishing barns with 7,000 hogs. After 7 years of planning and fundraising, the Russell Health Care Centre has been granted funding from the Manitoba government for a 2,300 square foot addition to house the cancer care chemotherapy program. And these are excerpts from the Carberry NCL Joint Council January meeting. The meeting was held in the drop-in centre with Mayor Olmsted in the chair. Council accepted the resignation with regret of Javin Blair, transfer station attendant, as of January 29th. A fire department report indicated a town versus RM usage at 23:75 ratio for the past 5 years. The library has acquired a new 3D printer. Service for Seniors has received a stationary bike for exercise. Plans are underway for 10 weeks of day camp programs. Recreational Board Chairman Jamie Smart was a delegate to find out why the NCL Council had not passed the campground resolution to provide $60,000 from each municipality and $80,000 from the Legacy Fund to start a campground at the north end of the rec land. It was to have been done by January 17th, so an application to the Building Sustainable Communities Grant Program for matching dollars could be submitted, which could give the board $400,000 to work with. The rec board was getting frustrated with no concrete movement since it was put before both councils in May 2021. The campground was selected as a first project as it required little infrastructure and was an immediate source of revenue. The town passed the resolution unanimously. The NCL Council wanted a detailed business plan and wanted the Legacy Fund topped up to earn as much interest as possible. After a long, fierce debate, it was agreed to let the NCL either pass or defeat the standing resolution on funding or draft another funding model for the campground, which both councils have approved. The Museum Board has scheduled a meeting to discuss details of possibly moving the roundhouse from the fairgrounds to a site in town where it would be more useful and accessible to the public. CAO Fraser urged both councils to work together, as so many advantages and benefits can be gained with community improvements as their goal. Carberry's most recent population total is 1,818. Okay. Well, we'll see if we have enough time to read this. Moments in RMNP, Ravens on Cleanup Duty by Ken Kingdon. As with all families during the holidays, we can have some interesting discussions. My brother-in-law asked why he didn't see more dead bodies on the streets and parks in Winnipeg. He meant animal bodies, of course, and we talked about how it is amazing that the bodies of dead mice, rats, squirrels, etc. seem to vanish without a trace. With this in mind, I was reading an article the other day that answered the question about what happens to all the bodies of dead animals. There are literally hundreds of birds dying every day, yet we aren't up to our knees in carcasses or feathers, so what happens to them? As the article was written in England, it went into some depth about the role of beetles and flies, as well as red foxes and badgers. Here on the prairies, the cleanup process is aided by additional scavengers like skunks and raccoons, those unsung animals that literally hide the bodies. Locally, we also benefit from the presence of ravens and magpies, especially in winter, when many of the other scavengers are sleeping. A case in point was on January 26 when I came across a dead white-tailed deer. The young buck appeared to have died of natural causes, likely exacerbated by the heavy snows and cold temperatures. Judging from its tracks, it hadn't moved much over the preceding days. The carcass was fresh. It had snowed a few hours before my discovery, yet there was no snow on the body and its flesh was unfrozen. I appreciated the snowfall as it recorded who was beginning the process of cleaning up this unfortunate animal. It turns out that the only tracks I could see were raven tracks. Given the lack of mammal tracks and that the deer's muscle looked torn rather than chewed, my conclusion is that only ravens had visited the site. And what a raven feast! When I arrived, I spooked about 15 ravens away from the body. They were making short work of the deer as it was gutted, and most of the meat had already been eaten from its major muscle groups. The ribs were exposed, with a few of the smaller ones cracked and partially eaten. At first, it seems nonsensical that a group of ravens could clean up the carcass in such a short time. Yet, when you look at the size and mass of their beaks, you get a sense of these birds' power. They wield their beaks like miniature picks, thwacking away at the tasty bits. The bonus was that this deer was still warm, which meant their job was even easier. At home, I did a bit of a search on raven dietary requirements and came across a paper written in 1974. It was a study of ravens' winter diets in Alaska, in which the author estimated that ravens burned up about 200 kcals each day. This is the equivalent of eating one glazed donut or 2/3 of a regular cheeseburger. Honestly, this doesn't seem like very much, but weighing in at a maximum of 1.5 kilograms, ravens are pretty small when compared to humans. A quick mental math exercise: a human weighing 75 kilograms would have to eat 50 donuts a day to keep up with a raven. That's a lot of Timbits. With this figuring and the state of the deer, I am betting that the carcass had attracted more ravens than the 15 birds I initially scared away. I suspect, too, that once they had eaten their fill, many of the ravens would have been stashing food away for later. Ray and I did a couple follow-ups with visiting the deer a couple days later. The deer was frozen solid and remained largely intact. Wolves had visited the site and taken the front and back legs off the deer's right side, but they made no attempt to flip the deer over to eat from the other side. This reinforces my thoughts that the deer was in poor condition when it died, with very little fat left in its muscles. Fat is essential to carnivores in winter, and so a frozen solid fat-free deer would be of little interest to them. I feel the same way about fake ice cream. Besides, the darn ravens had already eaten the energy-rich organs. Ray commented on a red fox that is a regular visitor to his home in Minnedosa. As mentioned, foxes like magpies eat a lot of dead stuff, and I suspect that they have their regular town routes, snuffling up any birds that hit windows or road-killed squirrels before we even know that they are there. Kind of like magic. So that does it for this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you next week. So bye for now.